Hello and welcome to another video from oorail. In this video we're going to show you how to replace the brush heads on X03 X04 motor brushes. The X03 X04 motor is an older motor that was used by Triang and then later on Hornby on their loco driven locomotives, primarily on their steam locomotives. And you can see here the brush head is pretty black and it's worn out. You can actually make out, if I flick it around here, where you can actually make out the arc that the so if I pick it up you can probably make it out. You can make out the arc shape that where it makes contact with the motor. So you can see here this is a new one and it's more of a copper color, so you can obviously see this has been heavily worn down and it looks like it's never been replaced. So you can actually buy the arms with the heads attached and just swap them out. They're usually a little bit more expensive. And since this is not a very difficult thing to do, it's probably a good idea if you have a lot of these locomotives to buy up the heads while they're still available, just so that you can continue to run them in the future. And now the way to remove these is to basically apply heat to the back of the arm where the solder joint is, and it will melt the solder and the head will come free from the arm. And the head has a circular notch on one end. And if I turn it sideways you might be able to see it better. It's probably a little difficult to see, but there's a circular notch that is on the end of the brush, and that basically goes into the arm end, and then the other end goes into the touches against the locomotive and motor. So what we're going to do is first remove this, and then we'll show you how to reattach the other one. Okay, since the solder is probably a good 30-40 years old, we're going to apply just a small piece of solder flux to this to help in the melting process. So I just get the screwdriver here and apply just a very small amount of solder flux. Now you will notice that the joint on this is pretty flat. My soldering skills are not that good, so what's probably going to happen is there's going to be a bit of a blob of solder on the back. But don't worry about that. Even if you have a blob of solder on the back, it's not going to make any difference to the running of the motor. So I'm going to take the screwdriver and use it to apply pressure to the underneath of the motor, and then I'm basically going to apply this thing, soldering iron, like so, and as you can see it melts off pretty easily and it comes away like so. I'm going to give it a few seconds so this cool, but you can see here this is the old head from the brush, and we'll put it side by side with the new one. You can see here it's pretty much half worn. Like I said, it probably would have lasted a little bit longer, but we're just going to replace it because we've got a whole bunch of them. I'm not going to throw this away. If for some reason there's a shortage of these later on, there's still some use left on this, so I'm going to hang on to it. So you can see here there's a little bit of solder on the bottom, and you can make out the hole there pretty clearly. And if you're not sure which end is the top, which end you have to put solder on, and it's the one with the little dip in it. So the next piece is a little trickier, and that's going to be to reattach this. Now, pliers would probably be a good choice, so I'm going to go get a pliers before I attempt to do this. I'm using pliers to actually get myself a pair of tweezers here, and it's just going to be a little bit easier because the tweezers I can grasp the thing a little bit better. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just tin this slightly. I'm not going to tin it a whole lot. So what I'm going to do is get the pliers, or the tweezers here. There's still a little residue of solder flux on this, so I'm just going to tap the top of it like that. You don't want to use a whole lot. And I'm going to get the solder, and I'm going to melt a tiny amount of solder onto the tip of the soldering iron. So you can see here I have the solder and the soldering iron. Again, this would probably be a good time to get one of those kind of helping hands, crocodile clip things, but unfortunately I don't have one. So you'd think I'd invest in one, but I haven't had the time to do that yet. So with the solder still smoldering on the arm here, on the end of the iron here, we're just gonna gently touch that like so. You can see there what it's done is it's just put that blob of solder on the top here of the brush. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is basically put some solder flux on this. Now remember, you don't want the end with the hump, you want the end with the dip. So the end of the dip has to be pointing upwards. So since I'm doing the other one, I thought I'd show you how to do it. Now this paper that's behind here is actually card. It's not paper, so it's not going to melt. Into the quickest and easiest way to do that. There, see, did you see that? So what happened there is as I applied the heat and it lined up with the hole, it popped in perfectly as it melted. And that is it. So that's what you really want to go for. So I know the first one, probably didn't do it quite as smoothly as I should have, but you saw what happened there. I had the solder and the flux on the brush head itself. I had the solder and the flux on the arm, and then I left the solder head on the paper. This is a kind of card, and then I basically applied the heat to the top end of the brush arm here, and then as the heat was applied to it and the solder liquefied, I took the my left hand and wiggled the arm until it found the hole with the little kind of rivet on top of it. And once that rivet went into the hole, or the socket thing went into the hole, it just popped right in. And you can see there, it's quite a little bit cleaner, and it's actually a little bit straighter than the last one that I did. And so now we're ready to put the locomotive back together. So I'll work on that, and then we'll go give it a quick test on our test track.